Hi, I'm Nat.
And I'm Guy. And today we're talking Gladiator 2, Mike Tyson, Jake Paul, and Netflix. Miss Denmark, she's blonde. RFK got wrongfully fact checked, I guess.
Yes, so the New York Times did a little sneaky thing that we're going to talk about, as they've been doing with a lot of the picks and nominations for Trump's cabinet. They're going after, obviously, the biggest ones, which are RFK Jr. and Matt Gaetz, but in this
It seems like
time,
they're going after everybody.
Well, and Tulsi, yeah.
Yeah.
She's a Russian
Every
asset.
single one.
Yeah, and I keep hearing that from people that I also know, and just other things we listen to. People are just always going after these literally lies that the media keeps peddling everywhere.
Well, the Uniparty's getting together. That's the old Republican Party and the Democratic Party, and they're trying to box out MAGA, but MAGA has a mandate, and I think they're coming. But
Yes.
why don't we get into Gladiator 2 first?
Yeah, so we went to watch Gladiator 2, which I guess we just realized that it's not out in the U.S. I don't know if it's out in Canada.
Well, it's not out in the U.S., Canada, or China. We happen to live in Mexico City, and we were really lucky because it was playing, and I really wanted to see the movie, but the trailer looked horrible to me when I first watched it. Then just before we were going to go to the movies, I watched the trailer again, and it seemed like they had fixed it. So this particular trailer I had watched 2 or 3 times, and it had a bunch of Kanye West music, a lot of hip hop music, and it just really killed it because the soundtrack for the original Gladiator was absolutely phenomenal, and that's really what made the movie. So,
Well, and you're a big fan of Gladiator as well.
well, yeah, but they added the soundtrack to not only the trailer, but the entire movie had the original soundtrack on it, which was amazing, and it really helped make the movie. Well, before I get more into my opinions, let's hear what you think.
Well, I mean, I watched the first one, but I don't really remember it still, even after watching this one. But I mean, it was...
You
at
basically went because I wanted to go.
Yeah, and it was a bit less of like what I thought it was going to be, which most movies now are, which is like a woke fest. I feel like slowly they're trying to move away and transition from all of that. But I mean, it was good. I just went for the icy and the popcorn, but I ended up liking it and being invested. It's very long though. And I guess we shouldn't do like spoilers.
Yeah.
Since it hasn't released in a
I'll
lot of
try
places.
not to.
Yeah.
But Gladiator 1 was my second favorite movie after Braveheart. So, of course, I have high hopes going into the movie. And usually when I have high hopes like that, it's a disappointment. I will say it's not nearly as good as part 1 by any means. But by the end of the movie, I was satisfied like it was a solid movie. It wasn't overly woke or anything like that. So it didn't have anything that really ruined the movie. And the second half of the movie really made the movie. There was poor character development in the first half, which really didn't get you to connect to the characters. They really connected to the characters in the second movie to the first movie on the second half of the second movie. Mm-hmm. So, which kind of made it. But on part 1 with Russell Crowe, man, he was such a strong actor. Everybody they had in that movie was a strong actor. They got well-known names, but a lot of these names, such as Denzel Washington, he just didn't fit the part like the guy in part 1. Denzel Washington played the, I guess you'd say the master or the owner of all the gladiators. Mm-hmm. And the guy that played that position in part 1 was just absolutely phenomenal. And it's funny because I really like Denzel Washington a lot too, but in this particular movie, I just didn't feel like he fit the role. And his American accent, it was really noticeable, which it's not always noticeable in movies like that, but in this particular case, it was. I really felt like they cast him for that movie from that cop movie he did. Do you remember the cop movie he did?
No. I'm not very invested in Denzel Washington.
Yeah, Denzel wasn't the greatest in the movie, but the movie ended up being a solid movie. I was happy that they didn't completely ruin it. And the fact that they were able to make a mediocre to above average movie, I was happy with. They didn't ruin the sequel. The sequel is not as good as part 1.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and I mean, it was entertaining. And I think it's, again, a return to a more, to put it... funny way of a positive masculinity. I mean, there wasn't any, he was still the hero, like the hero who's supposed to be the hero was still the hero. There wasn't really...
There was a little bit of wokeness in the beginning.
Much love. Where?
There was female warriors all over the place.
Well, yes, but that is, I mean, historically there were some, I'm guessing that you can stretch it enough where it kind of makes sense still. But in general, I mean, the female warriors don't last too long, which is, I mean, true. Usually what actually does happen. So, I mean, it was more truthful than not. Some of the CGI effects, especially at the beginning, were a little bit too noticeable. I don't know why they couldn't get boats like at Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah, it's not a spoiler because it's the first scene in the movie.
Literally.
They started out with this big ship warfare, much how like 300 Part 2 did. And anytime you try to do CGI with water and ships, it just looks fake. It looked real enough so I can go along with it, but man, it really looked like CGI. And when you're dealing with Rome, they could have just rewrote that part of the movie to not involve water and ships, I think, which would have been a lot better. Yeah. But then, man, my hopes went really far down after the opening couple scenes.
Yeah, the opening is a bit weak, even like to the point where they could have just, I feel like, cut the whole first 20 minutes of it and just...
Well, I think they were thinking, let's go bigger, let's go bolder, but you really needed character development in that first 20 minutes.
But if they actually wanted to go bolder, then get a real ship, do what Pirates of the Caribbean did, and just film it in the ocean, or at least in a big pool.
Yeah, and then they were adding sharks and rhinoceroses all over the place, which was a little bit overkill. But overall, the movie was good. I would highly recommend it. I would have had loved to see Russell Crowe in it again, but I think it would have had to be a prequel if they were going to do that. And the way they did go with the second half of the script writing and the story, it really tied very well into the first movie, I thought.
And I think in general, again, it's a return to more normal cinema. But I mean, that the same can't be said, for example, with the trailers that we got served right before the movie.
Yeah,
which the first trailer we got was... I think it's called Emilia Perez or something like that. It's a movie that's in Spanish and in English. And it's about they don't even know where to put them now, but it's a transgender cartel boss. That's what the movie is about a cartel boss, from what I understood, because it was half in Spanish, half in English. I speak both languages, but even then it was confusing what it was about. Apparently this cartel mob boss called Manitas wants to transition and finally be the woman that he always thought he was, but also go into hiding with the help of all of these women, including Selena Gomez and Zoe Saldana. It just looks ridiculous. So that was trailer number 1. And then on trailer number 2...
Well, trailer number 2, they had... first of all, trailer number 1 was an extremely high-budget movie with Selena Gomez and other things. So it wasn't like some woke piece of crap independent film. They're investing a lot of money into this propaganda. And the second movie was more of the same. It was an extremely high-budget movie. I would say it was well-filmed, good cinematography. I just thought it was way over-sexualized, especially for a trailer in a movie. They had Daniel Craig, who's 007, and they're just destroying his reputation. I mean, this is an outright, not only a gay love story, but just gay sex all over the place. I don't know if I can say that because I don't want to get canceled here, but...
But yeah, it was basically, it looks like it's about a coming of age story between this older man and this young boy, teenager, young adult person. And the film itself is called Queer. So
well, they started out
it's in the title.
They started out with the older gentleman and the young man flirting. And I thought that's as far as they should go in the trailer. And I was even uncomfortable with that. Because there was like an 80-year-old Mexican guy and woman who were probably very conservative sitting next to me. So I felt bad for them. Yeah. And it made just me feel awkward. But if they would have stopped with the flirting in the trailer, it would have been fine. But man, they were very explicit with these sexual scenes in this trailer. It had more sex scenes in the trailer than the Gladiator movie had.
Scenes. Well, the Gladiator movie actually didn't have much even of a love or romantic thread, which I also thought was refreshing in a way.
I didn't mind.
It was good. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like, it was good that it wasn't just focused on this one thing, and it was really just about the fights and the grandiosity of it and the politics as well. Like, it had a lot of other elements that we rarely see now in movies that need to have that romantic element and the woman that can do it all.
Yeah, I don't know, because Gladiator Part 1, the romantic story tied in so well and made you really care about the characters. So when his wife died
nowadays,
in Part 1,
they don't do that properly. Yeah. And they just put it in there to put it in there, and it's way more explicit than it has to be. And I was glad it wasn't used in that way this time.
Well, other than the trailers, I do highly recommend Gladiator, even though it's not nearly as good as part one, but it's a solid film and we should support non-woke Hollywood so they make more movies like this.
Yeah, this wasn't, I wouldn't even say it's non-woke, it's just normal, like what movies used to be like.
It was just a solid movie.
Yeah, but I mean, speaking of fights and gladiators, and another event that just happened was the Mike Tyson, Jake Paul fight that you made me watch on Netflix.
Well, I thought it was a great success, even though a lot of people are saying a lot of bad things about the fight. They had 3 pre-fights. The one pre-fight was a influencer on YouTube from Brazil, so you didn't expect much from that. But the other 2 championship fights were absolutely brutal and amazing. Now, when it came to the Jake Paul Mike Tyson fight itself, man, that was a disappointment. And I think Jake Paul really didn't think Mike Tyson was going to be as old as he was. It was very evident in the second round that Jake Paul hit Mike Tyson, and Mike Tyson had absolutely no balance. And after that point, Jake Paul would do nothing more than a little jab, trying to carry him through the rest of the rounds. I don't know if it was fixed, but I definitely...
Well, there is a lot of talk online of it being at least half scripted, or that they would get paid more the longer they went, stuff like that.
I think the consensus now is that it was an exhibition fight, and that they had signed a pre-contract that nobody was supposed to get knocked down. Very possible. Also, I just think if Jake Paul would have hit him really hard, he may have actually killed him.
Well, I kept like,
and I was cringing, and I rarely cringe on fights. I mean, I love UFC.
Yeah.
So
for me, I was trying not to watch it because it was so awkward and sad. The girls' fight was kind of interesting, but after that, I just kind of stayed scrolling on Instagram, and I'd ask you every so often, like, is he still looking that bad? Is he still looking that bad? And I mean, at the end, I was telling you, I hope he doesn't die. Like, he could have had easily, he looked like he could have had a heart attack right after and just collapsed. Hopefully, I think he didn't.
I hope somebody tells Mike Tyson the truth, because he shouldn't be fighting anymore. And the post-fight interview was very, very disappointing. I guess the pre-fight interview was a little bit disappointing as well. So Mike Tyson's son interviewed Mike Tyson in the dressing room, and it was a normal interview until Mike Tyson walks away and he's bare-butted.
Yeah.
So you get
he mooned about, well, according to BBC, 60 million homes that were watching it live. It was something I didn't want to see. And I turned to you and I was like, I don't want to see that.
I found it funny, but yeah.
Yes. And I thought at first it was maybe on purpose, but apparently it seems like, no, he was just training and hadn't put his shorts on or whatever they were.
Well, it got a lot of media attention, so a lot of articles written about it. But I was disappointed mainly in the post-fight interview. Afterwards, they asked Mike Tyson, would this be it? Would he hang up his gloves? And you expected him to say yeah, and he emphatically said no.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of
he wants another fight, and it's because Jake Paul went so easy on him. He doesn't realize that Jake Paul didn't want to hurt him. He didn't realize what he looked like in there. He could barely bend his knees. Like, he doesn't need to be fighting again. He's going to seriously hurt himself. I know before the fight, in the build-up for this, he was saying he wants to die in the ring. That's exactly what's going to happen if he keeps it up.
And I kept asking, is he dead? Is he dead? But I mean, this also helps to kind of segue into what sports and live events might now look like. And Netflix, I mean, it's the first time they did it. There were a lot of mistakes for sure. We got a lot of buffering errors, and some people weren't even able to go in. Which is surprising that Netflix wasn't really ready for that, because they've been ready to release, big budget movies. They've even been like at awards shows. And now you'd think that with all that prestige and money and et cetera, they'd be able to at least buy a few more servers. But apparently they still haven't done it. And this was more of a test.
What was the TV series I was telling you about? The groom and the guy, they had the live event, the reunion. On Netflix?
Love is Blind.
Oh, so, okay. This is Netflix's second attempt to do a live streaming event. They had Love is Blind. Probably nobody knew about it. I read an article about it. That's how I knew. But they had the Love is Blind. It started crashing when people were tuning into that. This was months and months ago, a long time ago. But they needed to really test the server base. They probably thought they had cleaned it up. Mike Tyson, Jake Paul basically broke the internet. So they realized they're going to need a lot more servers, especially coming up on Christmas season, because they got I believe it's 1 or 2 exclusive NFL games on Crit. They're going to try to get banner sporting events, not just regular season things that are going to get a lot of eyes and going to need a lot of servers. I think the issue with Netflix when they're doing live sports and things like this is when you get an event like Jake Paul, Mike Tyson, very rarely are your servers going to ever hit that capacity again. Mm-hmm. Even with the NFL, I don't think you're going to get as many eyes tuning in, but we'll see.
Yeah, and I mean...
But I do think it was a good test for them, and even though they failed that test, I think it's going to wake them up, and now they can make the appropriate adjustments. And the fact that they were able to get that many eyes on it was absolutely great.
I mean, this also goes into what we were talking about with Disney and ESPN and them trying to kind of pivot to more live events. And I think it's a signal, at least, that the media and companies are realizing that because of all the AI integration, all of the CGI, all of the new ways to make movies, one of the few things that people will still be interested in that only they can do is these big live events. Because as we've seen also with the elections and with podcasting and YouTubing and everything, live streaming becoming a lot more popular, they're losing so much ground now. I mean, we're seeing CNN firing a bunch of their newscasters because nobody's watching them, because everybody's watching.
Yeah, not just
YouTube.
live streaming, but live streaming sports in particular. People have to tune in live. Otherwise, they may see the score, and then it's going to ruin the game for them. Mm-hmm. So people do tune in live, which is an opportunity, especially because there's a lot of breaks and actions to actually add commercials in without taking away from the action, which that's just more monetization for these platforms. So I'm definitely expecting to see that. Even though this was a horrible fight between Mike Tyson and Jake Paul, I do think there's a huge opportunity for Jake Paul to fight again, and I think he's going to try to probably fight a Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor has 2 fights left. It would be easy to get a lot of hype on that fight. So if he doesn't fight Conor McGregor, I'm expecting another really big name. He's not going to fight somebody like a Tommy Fury. He's able to get too many eyeballs if he has the right dance partner.
Oh, speaking of Conor McGregor and a story we did a long time ago, is he still trying to be president of Ireland, or did he give up on that dream?
Well, I don't know.
You know all the UFC
I was watching
information.
Red Pill MMA, and if you don't know who Red Pill MMA, he does MMA commentary, but he's pretty based. He's from Ireland. He's been covering the Conor McGregor trial lately. It looks like it's a pretty rigged trial, but because Conor McGregor is so based and he's speaking up against illegal immigration and deporting migrants in Ireland, it looks like they're coming after him with all these civil and criminal cases to try to shut him up. So I haven't heard much about him running for president of Ireland again, and I think it's because they're coming after him in the court system just like they did Donald Trump.
Mm-hmm.
So,
but he is still like crazy.
Well, he likes his drugs. He likes his drugs and alcohol
and women. So
I mean, the difference between him and Donald Trump is Donald Trump doesn't even drink.
Yeah.
Well, Conor McGregor is just partying his ass off. You don't want somebody like that running the country necessarily.
Probably.
Yeah.
And I mean, speaking of countries and women, I guess I don't know how to segue into this next one, but EV Magazine, which if you're a girl and you're tired of random magazines, I'm going to pitch them to you. EV Magazine is a non-woke, pretty conservative women's magazine.
What's EV stand for?
EV, it's a name. It's EVIE.
Oh, okay. I've never heard of it. So.
We've used it before for news, but it was a while ago. Okay. So they're publishing, and it's being talked about a lot, that Miss Denmark becomes the first blonde woman to be crowned Miss Universe in 20 years. And a lot of people are making the joke and the connection that now that Donald Trump has won, the world is coming back to sanity and, restoring the principles of normal beauty and normal women, biological women, back to the way it used to be. So I don't know how to say her name. Victoria Gjertjelvig. She's 21. She made history as the first Danish woman to claim the tiara and the first blonde winner in 20 years, and that says a lot. But even though, and it was here in Mexico City, I didn't even know that Miss Universe was happening in Mexico City. I kind of would have tried to go.
It's a good place to have it because there is a good conservative culture here. So
yeah, but so she was crowned on November 16th, so 2 days ago. Not only is she the first blonde woman, but the first Danish one as well. And the internet and the media are, of course, outraged because a blonde woman in 20 years, that hasn't happened in 20 years, has won Miss Universe, the other person that was runner-up was a black woman from, I don't remember where, but she was black from Africa. So they're outraged that
you're
this
having all
blonde
these
girl.
trans, all these fat people.
Yeah.
Like this is fat people aren't supposed to be winning Miss Universe competitions.
Yeah.
This is like it's even worse than giving a trophy to the loser. It's like you're giving the loser the first place trophy just to send a message to society, which is craziness.
And it says, a tweet from Free Ashley, the viewers of Miss Universe beauty pageant are outraged, claiming the winner was chosen due to racism, because of course. So it says there's even articles now being written about it, that Miss Universe 2024 viewers slam unfair and racist decision as they hope the crown feels heavy with regret of winning because she's blonde and beautiful. I mean, she's not even that attractive. She's just white.
I had
blonde
no
and
idea
blonde.
about this story, and then you told me it, and I said, "What? A blonde girl hasn't won in 20 years?"
Yeah.
That seems like a lack of diversity to me.
Yeah.
It seems like once in a while you would have a blonde person winning, but I think they've been sending a message politically with Miss Universe, and now maybe they're sending a message that they're not doing that anymore. We'll see what happens. But I was very surprised when you told me about this story that a blonde person hadn't won Miss Universe. And I don't mind because I think beauty really comes in all colors, but not all shapes and sizes, but all colors. And all shapes and sizes. There are beautiful women that are bigger, but they shouldn't be winning a Miss Universe pageant. That's just not,
Sure. But so yeah, the more people are saying skinny blonde white girl. Oh, we are so back. Referencing obviously the Donald Trump win. But I mean, we can go through them. So 2004, Jennifer Hawkins from Australia was the last time a blonde woman, and she's not super blonde. She's just kind of blonde one. And then we have, I mean, from all over Canada, Puerto Rico, Japan, and then a lot of Latin American countries.
The girl
Venezuela,
one from
Venezuela,
the
Mexico.
girl one from Japan. The Ukrainian girl won because she was a Japanese citizen. What did she look like?
I don't know. When was that?
I think it was last year, but it may not have been Miss Universe. It might have been Miss World.
Yeah, it might have been another one.
Yeah.
Paulina Vega. So here we're seeing all of the non-blonde and a lot of the non-white girls that already won for the past 20 years.
It made me realize that how old I really am because it's been like, when you said that, it's like, man, it's been 20 years of woke. And I realized I lived in Canada and wokeism started, decades before it started here in Mexico and other places in the world. It was really the tip of the spear. But man, having to live through 20 years of this, it's a breath of fresh air having Trump come in office because you can feel the change coming.
Yeah, and I mean, it just speaks to kind of the cultural spell of what we've all been under and just kind of accepting that saying that a blonde girl with blue eyes is pretty or a man is, a sin almost. And it's racist to just acknowledge that beauty still exists, and it's homophobic and transphobic to say that these people might not be the most attractive ones ever, or that a over morbidly obese woman isn't the most beautiful woman that we should celebrate daily. That's kind of, I think, hopefully coming to an end. I mean, we also saw Victoria's Secret.
That's what I was going to say. The Victoria's Secret, when they started, when fat Victoria's Secret angels, it's like, those girls can't fly.
Yeah.
They're too heavy to fly.
Heavier the wings. and I mean, we saw they were still a little bit woke this year with the Victoria's Secret fashion show. I used to watch it when I was in university when things were slightly more normal. And then they decided to 180 because all these allegations came out about the owner. But then they brought in these ugly, angry, fat, transgendered, woke angels to replace the normal actual angels. And in this one, they had to bring back the real angels that are now looking a little bit older. But because they haven't had the time to find actually beautiful, normal-looking biological women to run in their shows, well, they had to bring back the older ones.
Well, you know more about the Victoria's Secret angels than I do. Did Leonardo DiCaprio keep dating Victoria's Secret models once they got fat or no?
No, I mean, not a lot of them got fat. Like, a lot of the original angels actually still look pretty stunning because they've kept up. But the ones that they had brought in that were ugly and fat, I mean, they were still there, but there was a lot less and a lot less focus on them because I think they realized we're losing all this money. And women that like Victoria's Secret and used to watch the show watched it as an aspirational, motivation almost. And also because women like to look at other pretty women and get
And guys like to look at
inspiration.
other pretty
Yes.
women.
And so they realized nobody really was going to be watching their show because the wokes are still against that kind of I can't say that word, over bodification of women, and they're not going to watch that because
Beautification.
sure. And then the normal regular people that used to like real Victoria's Secret aren't going to watch that because nobody wants to see that. So yeah, the world is kind of returning slowly to a saner place, but we're still seeing a lot of craziness out there, especially.
Oh, well, we can keep our fingers crossed. I've noticed since Trump got in office, I don't know how, just there's a shift, and you feel it happening, and you see it happening with movies and other things.
Yeah. Well, movies, they've been produced and made 2 to 3 years.
Conservatism coming in.
Oh, we disconnected. Oh, we reconnected. It's not even, I'd say, like...
Well, can they hear us if we disconnected?
No. I think it starts again.
Okay.
But I think it's not even about like conservative movies. It's just normal movies like they used to be.
Yeah.
Like the fact that we now have to call that conservative to me is crazy because it's actual conservative movies would be like anti-abortion, like pro-life. This 16-year-old girl gets pregnant and then her life changes and finds the love of her life or marries the man that she's going to have the baby with and lives happily ever after. Like that would be a conservative movie. Or a woman that marries a guy and then they have a farm. Like that would be, these are
like
just
the Christian
normal movies.
like the Christian movies they have on Netflix.
Yeah, these would just be normal movies. These are just normal movies and back to the way it used to be.
And we have one last story, I think.
Crazy woke. Yes. So speaking about the return of Trump and the return of everybody else around.
Oh
him
yeah, it
as
was
well.
RFK story.
Yeah. So New York Times fact check of RFK Jr.'s claims about popular breakfast cereal stuns social media. So spitting out my coffee after reading this New York Times fact check of RFK Jr., one ex-user wrote. Now I'm reading, so you know the context. The New York Times offered a baffling fact check of Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s claim that a popular breakfast cereal, Fruit Loops, in the United States contains several artificial ingredients.
Not Fruit Loops.
So Kennedy has pledged to tackle chronic health issues facing Americans and take on corruption within the food FDA in order to make America healthy again. And in an interview on MSNBC after Trump won, he suggested that they could eliminate entire departments within the FDA. In some categories, the entire departments, like the nutrition department in the FDA, they have to go. They are not doing their job. They're not protecting our kids. Why do we have Fruit Loops in this country that have 18 or 19 ingredients and you go to Canada and it's got 2 or 3? And so the New York Times took umbrage with this and published a report on Friday analyzing Kennedy's views on artificial food ingredients that specifically fact-checked that Trump nominee for his claims about Fruit Loops using different ingredients in the U.S. So what they wrote was, Mr. Kennedy has singled out Fruit Loops, such an affront, as an example of a product with too many artificial ingredients, questioning why the Canadian version has fewer than the U.S. version, the Times report said, but he was wrong. The ingredient list is roughly the same, although Canada's has natural colorings from blueberries and carrots, while the U.S. Product contains all of these dyes, so red dye 40, yellow 5, and blue 1, as well as butylated hydroxytoluene, or BHT, a lab-made chemical that is used for freshness, according to the ingredient label. So the fact that they're saying, no, the Canadian one has the exact same, like it doesn't just have 2 or 3 ingredients, it has more, but then they list all of the actually toxic ingredients that RFK Jr. is complaining about, goes to the same kind of fact checks and the same insanity and the same lies they try to peddle about him, saying that he's completely anti-vax and he wants to stop everybody from getting vaxxed.
But it was a wrong fact check.
Yeah,
so they fact checked him and it was wrong.
But the problem is then what they do, the mainstream crazy news publications, is that, yes, they'll correct themselves, but then they'll put that correction all the way at the bottom instead of saying this article has been edited to be more truthful.
Then it's up to people like me and you to bring the real facts out, I guess.
Yes, and I mean, that's why people are losing confidence in the mainstream media. But the way that they've fact-checked and proven and disproven, basically now all of Trump's cabinet picks and all of the nominations that he's made. I mean, Tulsi Gabbard is a Russian asset, according to them, which is not true. Oh. And then Matt Gaetz has a lot of our word and has been already convicted in courts for things that he didn't do and there's no evidence of. And now RFK Jr. and all of the anti-vax claims and all of the, he wants to remove everything.
They have no hard evidence for anything they're claiming against these people, but they just make these roundabout accusations, but they get so many different media sources to repeat these lies that they're trying to discredit them. And it's not going to happen because it really seems like RFK, Trump, Tulsi Gabbard, Elon Musk, Matt Gaetz, they're all really tight knit right now. You're seeing them in public together. You're seeing them at Mar-a-Lago constantly. Even if he's not able to get these people appointed somehow, he's going to find a position for them. And they're going to show their loyalty and they're going to continue to move on to the next administration, whether that be J.D. Vance or whoever it is. But again, Trump has the option of calling a recess and having everybody automatically appointed. But the old man that used to be Speaker of the House, I can't remember his name.
Which one? McCarthy? Not McCarthy.
Not McCarthy.
John.
No. Anyway, he said there is going to be no recess appointments.
The one with glasses?
Yeah.
Or Johnson?
I don't know. It doesn't matter.
The current one is Speaker
Let's just keep going, and then we'll get it next time.
Well, we have a lot of time to fill. We've only done 30
Okay,
minutes.
why don't you type in that? So Speaker of the House said there be no recess appointments. And then we'll see who it was.
So Mike Johnson, which is the current Speaker of the House, did leave the door open.
My computer's not working, so I can't do it.
Okay. Mitch McConnell.
Mitch McConnell.
Yeah.
That was it.
That's why I was like something, not McCarthy, McConnell.
So yeah, Mitch McConnell said there would be no recess appointments, and McConnell's very close to, I would say, retirement or dying. So he's got nothing to lose to really try to stop everything he can to retain.
But he also had, like, all the rhinos like him are starting to lose power. And I think this is them grasping at straws, trying to retain a little bit of credibility and power.
Yeah.
Now that everybody hates them. I mean, Matt Gaetz specifically took
It's
him
exactly what it is. But who was the Speaker of the House currently?
Mike Johnson.
Mike Johnson. And it looks like Trump and Mike Johnson are aligned. And Mike Johnson's entire political future is going to hinge on these recess appointments. And he may not even have to have a recess appointment because he has a mandate from the American people. And it looks like the Republicans, generally, if they want to have a future career within the new Republican Party, they're going to appoint these people. And they have the House and they have the Senate. And it's going to show unity on the Republican Party if they can appoint these people rather than have recess appointments.
And I mean, we are seeing this unity of, Mike Johnson and Elon Musk and Trump Jr. and RFK. They went to UFC. It's at 309, the one that just happened. And I mean, we did see RFK kind of being force-fed McDonald's. And
he was being peer pressured and eating McDonald's, which was great to see.
Yeah, the images.
I think it was Trump Jr. was really peer pressure on him.
Yeah, he's holding the fries. But then we also see Mike Johnson kind of peering behind him. But I mean, this was another great show of normalcy.
They're going out and doing things that are fun as like buddies, as well as working together. And they had a lot of people that were involved in the Middle East peace deal at the UFC as well. A lot of people didn't know that and didn't know who some of the figures around him were. But it looks like he's trying to work on peace deals right now. And I'm just going to say to the audience, if there are any liberals watching, the fact that Trump is a narcissist is probably one of the best points that are going to be one of his best characteristics going into this final term, because he already has $1 billion and he's done everything he wants to do in life. He's concerned about his legacy. In order to leave a legacy, he's going to want to bring an era of peace and prosperity to the United States. If he's able to do that, then it's going to feed into his ego. Yeah. So I think the fact that Trump is, highly narcissistic is actually going to be highly beneficial for the American people right now and a lot of people around the world. Yeah. So a lot of people say that's a negative point on him, but it's not like he's trying to steal a bunch of money. He already has billions of dollars.
Yeah, he doesn't even need to be doing
what he wants is a legacy, and he knows the only way to get a legacy is, number one, to clean up government and to have stop these crazy wars that are going on around the world. Mm-hmm. And if he's able to do that, he's going to be remembered as one of the greatest modern presidents today.
Yeah, to do things right and turn the country around. And I mean, we're seeing also this cultural shift towards I mean, a whole UFC stadium and the John Jones, the champion, handing him his belt and like doing the little Trump dance, and you could see like genuine happiness in Trump's face and the thankfulness from all the people. I mean, people are now feeling allowed to be,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, for Trump and liking Trump, and it's like the cool thing now for Gen Z and
For so long, it was like
so many people that
not.
are now
So
like,
the fact
oh, this
that
is
it
so
is
cool.
now, it's man, you have to give the man his dues, and I really hope he's able to succeed in his final term, and he does get the dues he's deserved because he's survived assassinations. Not just physically, but character assassinations by the media for years now. And because Trump, I know I keep saying he's a narcissist, but I really like him as a person and as a president. But being that he is so narcissistic, he used to be the media darling. So it must have been really, really hard on him to have everybody turn on him,
Yeah.
call him a Nazi and everything else for years and years, and just have story after story. I know he's been reaching out to the mainstream media, which I don't think he should do, but it's because of his tendencies to want to be liked.
Yeah, and I mean, who was it? Micah Brzezinski and what's his face?
Oh, I don't know.
From Morning Joe. Joe.
Oh, yeah, Joe Scarborough. Oh, Joe
They
Scarborough.
said they spoke to him and they were very proud about now turning a new page over after trying to destroy him for the past.
Well, he was
6
Hitler,
years.
but now they're talking to Hitler, so obviously he wasn't.
Yes.
And I would like to say Joe Scarborough, there was an interview from maybe 15, 20 years ago, maybe even more than that, where it was him and RFK. RFK looked extremely young, so it was an old interview. And they
I
were,
saw it.
even back then, RFK was fighting in court over vaccines and saying these were dangerous for our children.
Yeah.
And Joe Scarborough said, his child was autistic because of the
Yeah,
vaccine.
he knew so, yeah. And the fact that, and
And it was really pushing it. But then
Yeah.
later on, he changed this entire thing. The fact that he has such a personal connection with vaccine injury through his kid and then is willing to crucify RFK later on like that just shows his character.
yeah.
and
And I
I'm
mean,
re-
the character, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to add one little tidbit. I was really glad to see that Trump's adding YouTubers to the
Oh, yes.
White House
To the
press briefing room,
press briefing room. He's now allowing independent journalists, YouTubers,
which is great.
Rumble people, which is great because now hopefully they'll be sitting up front and then
But it just
you know,
knocks
rest
the
of
mainstream media down a peg.
Yeah.
And,
and makes them realize the times are changing and,
And then
there's
he-
nothing you can do about it.
and then Trump's going to be able to call on anybody he wants.
Yep.
Which, if he calls on the YouTubers first, it's going to be very interesting.
And it'll be interesting to see what YouTubers actually go.
Well,
or
I would
send
think Benny
someone.
Johnson for sure.
Yeah, Benny Johnson. I don't know of him personally, but again, it's this thing where they have their daily shows. So who's going to be stepping away and or moving to Washington to be able to do that and cover the White House? I mean, I don't think, for exple, Tim Pool would go there himself. I think they'd send someone. Same
That's
with
what I
Daily
told you the
Wire.
other day.
Yeah.
Now you're taking my talking
I'm
point.
not taking your talking point.
Shows like PBD and the Daily Wire can definitely hire somebody specifically to go to the press briefing room every single day.
Yeah.
And so could Tim Pool. So
Yeah. So, but I think that they've built such an empire now with live streaming daily and having their, you know, little group chats every day. They're not podcasts, shows, I guess, but it's news. So I've never known really what to call them.
well,
But
it's going to be interesting if you have a bunch of
they still need themselves to be there.
It's going to be very interesting if you have a bunch of YouTubers because if they're in the press briefing room every single day, because Trump tends to give press briefings every day, they're going to have to move to Washington. There's going to start being a huge conservative presence in Washington, D.C., because Trump's talking about dismantling a lot of these agencies. And the ones he's not going to dismantle, he's going to send out around the country so there's not a consolidation of liberal power in Washington, D.C., which is a great idea.
And also, I mean, I've talked about her a lot, but Jessica Reed Krause, House and Habit, is now even saying she's planning on maybe moving to Washington. So hopefully she'll do the coverage. And she's been covering a lot of liberal women still melting down and telling, like, there's these women online telling their followers or their friends that if any influencer or that thing that you heard, like a cheesemonger that you follow on Instagram or like Weaver that you follow on Instagram follows this woman that's so terrible, then unfollow her. So all of the unfollowings and cancellations that are not really working now, they're still trying to do them though. And they're still trying to smear all of these people that are doing really well, be it Tim Pool, Jessica Reed Krause, Benny Johnson, all of these people are getting like, oh, if you follow them, I'll unfollow you. But people are actually now saying, I don't care, unfollow me. I care more about, what's happening in the real world than your little imagined racist, misogynistic, homophobic, etc. Because everybody now sees that all of these smears are not really true.
Yeah.
And the people they smear are not really what they say they are.
Well, the truth's coming out with all these Hollywood celebrities. It started coming out first with Jeffrey Epstein, but now this Diddy thing is just constantly really exposing people. And it's taken the luster off of what it is to be an actor and a musician and a star. These people have sold their souls. And I think people are coming to the realization having real people to look up to is far better. I was watching a show the other day. It was the gentleman. He's a comedian. I can't remember his name now, but he was just interviewing a garbage man that had done 20 years as a garbage man in Staten Island. And that's the kind of interviews I really like to see. And it was something different because he usually has huge guests on his show. Yeah. So it was really good to see something like that.
Theo Von?
Oh, Theo Von, yeah.
And I mean, and just in general, people watch, I think, more normal YouTubers, even though eventually they get a lot of money, for that realness and for the mistakes and for the less produced, more real experience, because everything else is so produced and so fake and so Instagram and the Kardashians and the whatevers and the P. Diddy's, that when
people are turning their back on that now,
because now that the real them is able to come out, also kind of thanks because of social media, they're realizing maybe these are not the people I should look up to. Maybe let me try to find someone that's a bit more normal, that makes mistakes like I do, and who has opinions that are closer to mine.
They want to see vulnerability. They don't necessarily want to see a polished end product. A lot of people will subscribe to a polished end product, but they want to watch live streams from people that are like just getting their thoughts together and showing how their belief system really
work and change.
Function.
But I mean, speaking about P. Diddy, now that you mentioned it, just now, almost breaking news, Amala Panobi, who used to be on PragerU and she used to have a show there, now she's gone independent. Apparently, she's been covering a lot of the whole Diddy trial news, celebrities. And she got a visit from two random men saying they were from New York and they were coming from Detroit now, and that they were looking for influencers who had been speaking about the Diddy story and about these celebrities, but they weren't very straightforward. They went to her house, but not her current house, so only her ex-roommate was there. But I mean, apparently she got on the phone and started speaking to them, and they said that they were investigating. They were very murky on what the real motives were at the beginning. They were just saying if she had gotten paid to talk about the Diddy story, kind of fishing as to why she was covering all these things and who were her sponsors. And she just kept saying, nobody sponsors me, nobody pays me.
Yeah, it's a great story. And
then she started asking them, who are you? And they were saying, like, who do you work for? Who's your agency? Are you private investigators? Are you government? And they apparently just said that they were law enforcement, and that now they had been hired to investigate about 10 influencers speaking on Diddy.
Stars are scared things are coming out. They want to silence these YouTubers.
Yeah.
And I forgot what I was going to say there, but I was going to say, of course she's covering the Diddy story. It's great, but it's extremely hard to know what's real and what's fake. Mm-hmm. The amount of articles and videos that are popping up, I'm like, I don't know what's real and what's not with that. And it's the first time this has really happened. I can usually parse through things. Yeah. With this particular story, I've kind of stayed away from it because I just don't know what's going on, and I want harder information to come out. But I will say this, as far as Justin Bieber goes, good on Hailey Bieber, and he really picked a good girl in her because she's really sticking by him, and I think she released a statement saying Justin in due time will come out with what's happened. And I don't know, I really hope it's not the fact that he was abused and became an abuser later.
No, I think Justin...
And I really feel for him, but I could understand how they would want to compromise him to get him to do things to other people as well when he did become of age. So I'm really concerned about what's going to come out of him because he was obviously abused first.
Yeah. No, I think with Justin, and because he's also done a lot of cryptic things, for example, with his Yummy music video, there were a lot of hidden things in there that I think more point to the fact that I don't know if he's been kind of paid off or if he just doesn't want to talk about it because it was so traumatic.
Well, he's the main video that is
But-
he's supposedly in being violated by a bunch of big stars.
Being
Yeah.
not treated well by a bunch of stars.
Yeah.
But I think, for example, Usher, he did
He's the one that got Bieber involved
exactly, but he was also
Yeah.
not treated well by Diddy. But I think he did become what was done to him, but I don't think Bieber did.
Yeah, we'll have to see what happens.
saying.
But,
But-
obviously, Hailey Bieber's not. She's only involved because of her husband.
Yes.
And I'm really glad to see how she's sticking by him so far. And I will say this about her as well. I watched it. I knew who her dad was for a long time. It's Stephen Baldwin, not Alec Baldwin. Completely different. One's a liberal, one's a hardcore Christian conservative, actually. And Stephen Baldwin, although he's a little bit eccentric, he had an interview on PBD podcast.
Very.
And man, it was really good to understand how he raised his kids and who she was and how she interacts and how that family interacts with Justin Bieber and what their moral values and stances are. Yeah, I was very, very impressed by her father, actually.
And I mean, she has also gotten a lot of hate from for example, Selena Gomez camp, who is Justin Bieber's ex for the past, I don't know how many years they've been dating, but she's been getting harassed and hate online for who knows how many years, and she's still endured and she's still there. And I think, yeah, she's just a normal woman that now is a mother trying to stick by her.
What Justin
husband.
Bieber is about to go through if these tapes come out, thank God he's with Hailey Bieber instead of Selena Gomez.
Yes.
Because that would have been a downward spiral into who knows
Insanity.
what.
Yeah. But I mean, again, I think during the trials, a lot of celebrity names will come out, a lot of things will come out, but
No, I
I
don't even
honestly
know
don't think Bieber is going to be involved or even much mentioned other than as in the role of a victim rather than...
I don't even know if this
Rather
thing's
than
going to
involved in
trial
it.
or what's going to happen. I almost feel like they're using these tapes to say we got him. We're going to bring him out in trial. Get a bunch of people online. Like,
Well, I mean, Diddy's already still trying to pay off potential jury members.
Well, and then stars are trying to buy these tapes for hundreds of millions of dollars because they don't want their face out there.
Yeah.
So, man, I really hope this stuff does come out because at least then the general public's going to feel somewhat vindicated because of what happened with the Epstein case.
Yeah.
Nothing happened with that. And I feel like,
It might now that Trump's in there.
well,
Who
I feel like
knows?
the same thing's going to happen with this Diddy thing. We have these big expectations of names and people, being held accountable. And I just don't know if it's going to happen. I'll believe it when I see it.
Mm-hmm.
And man, it would really be a taste of vindication for the general public to have these names and people come out because of what happened to Epstein, which was nothing.
Yeah.
And is that it for today?
I guess, yeah, we ran out of stories. We ran out of things to talk about for now. But
I can keep going.
so this is, if you watched all the way till the end, I don't know, we forgot.